Hello, wonderful people. So today I really would like to open up a conversation on how my healthy morning routine kept me stuck in amenorrhea, disorder behaviors around food and training, and also made me infertile for many years. So we're traveling back in time. And before I start with my story, I just would like to share with you that I am a nutrition and dietetic clinician, and I run the private Facebook group Recover from Hypothalamic Amenorrhea Support. And I'm also running a program which is called the Period Comeback Protocol. All the information that I'm going to share with you today are simply to let you know, to share part of my story. I really invite you not to compare, not to believe in what your disorder voice is telling you after you watch this video, but simply be here with a judgment-free, open heart and with an open mind. And I really trust and want to believe that some of the things that I'm going to talk about today are going to be instrumental for your recovery journey. So once upon a time, I was this type A wonderful woman, because there were so many things that were wonderful about me. And I was a people pleaser. I didn't have a very strong sense of worth. I felt very insecure. And the only way that I could really control my actions and all the crazy things that were happening around me, which I'm not going to list today because it's completely pointless. And we are all struggling with different baggages. But the only way that I knew for how to control this type of overwhelming emotions was by controlling my body. And the way that I control my body throughout the years changed incredibly. I went from being an anorexic without even knowing what anorexia was, to binge eating and full-blown bulimia, to then really embracing restriction and overtraining. And in the beginning, it felt really great because all of a sudden I allowed myself to eat more regularly, more food compared to when I was anorexic, and with that definitely a regularity compared to when I was suffering from bulimia. And my body started to look also much better because I let go of that fluid retention. I felt more energetic because I had welcomed that exercise routine that gave me that beautiful boost of epinephrine, adrenaline, and cortisol all at once. It was really a great time when I welcomed exercise into my life, and when I started to welcome a variety of foods, especially foods that were plant-based, because I tried to follow quite a strict vegan diet in the beginning. I felt in control, and I felt that finally all the missing pieces of the puzzle were coming together. I was feeling happy on the outside. In the inside, nothing had changed. I was still dealing with difficulties in setting boundaries, very poor sense of self-worth. I was saying yes to many situations where I should have said no. And I wasn't really valuing myself as a person. And that led me to be stuck in a work environment that didn't deserve me, where I was also mistreated. And back in the past, before I met my wonderful soulmate, I was also going out with people that weren't the right fit. Anyway, here we come to the part of the story where I started restricting my food. In the beginning, wasn't even intentionally, and I started to up my exercise output. I had never tried running in the past, and because my boyfriend was into running, I just gave it a go. And someone else also mentioned interval training. We're talking about 10 years ago. No one knew about interval training as we know it nowadays, thanks to all the wonderful YouTube videos on it. And at the same time, I was also completing my yoga teacher training, which meant that I had to show up in a yoga studio between 6 and 8 hours a week, on top of having a full-time work as a manager in the travel industry, marketing manager in the travel industry. And I had a very hectic social life, absolutely no support. And I was navigating my life in a country that wasn't really familiar with me. Okay, I wasn't familiar with really. um, and so once again, having that control in terms of my exercise felt really good, because I knew that every single morning, even though life was crazy, I was still going to be able to go out for a run and felt better at the end of it. I still had my 8 hours in a yoga studio, which is something that I was working towards to. And every single time that I show up to the studio, I try to push myself a little bit more to become more flexible, stronger, to bend my back a lot, which obviously led to all the kind of injuries. And I was told back then to push through the pain, which is absolutely the worst advice that I had ever received. And then I got to a point that having that workout routine in place wasn't enough, because ultimately I still felt out of control, because I wasn't really validating my struggles, and I wasn't really getting to the root cause, which possibly at that time was my low sense of self-esteem and the dysregulated nervous system, which is something that I talk about nowadays as if I was a broken record. So I started restricting. There were so many talks about how intermittent fasting was incredible, how being a vegan was the way to go. I think the veganism really boomed 10 years ago, where everyone gave it a go. There was a huge talk about the alkaline diet, meaning that all the junk foods, all the alcohol, all the caffeine were taken out of the equation to really prioritize foods that came from planet Earth. And there were so many good things about it. And I can say that from one point of view, following that type of diet gave my gut microbiome a great variety of exposures to food that I had never had back in the past. And something else that came good out of it is that I stopped binging, because finally there was that consistent amount of food and there were huge quantity of foods. The problem is that I wasn't having breakfast, and I was having a huge quantity of foods that were all plant-based. Most of them were just plants, nuts and seeds, and very little else. I also started restricting alcohol after a while, and my boyfriend, which then became a husband, was really curious about that, because when we met, I really enjoyed my glass of wine, and we had lots of fun nights going from pub to pub, just having multiple drinks, which I don't think that was necessarily a good thing, but it was part of it was part of our relationship when we met. And so within a 3 years window, I went from enjoying my time out clubbing and having a couple of drinks and having all sorts of food, to really following a strict exercise routine and a strict diet. On top of it, I started cutting out junk food, however you want to define junk food, and alcohol completely. To top it all off, I started to take on more responsibility at work, and I was still that people pleaser that couldn't say no, even when really didn't want to be involved in specific situations. So what did my morning routine look like at that time? It started approximately 4:30, 5 a.m. with an alarm clock, after possibly not sleeping enough at night. It will continue with lots of movements, followed by lots of caffeine, to then go into a very hectic work environment where I didn't feel safe for any stretch of the imagination, to then following a meal plan that was very regimented. I didn't allow any flexibility. The only time where I really felt like being myself and I allowed myself to have a little bit more food was at the end of the day and sometimes on the weekend. But then also the occasions where I really enjoyed myself on the weekend became less and less. It was a difficult time, and it was really hard for me to recognize what it was going on. I then went to a doctor and I told them, I don't have my period. I've been trying for a long time to get my period back and to have a baby. It's not happening. And the doctor asked me, how are you? And I started crying. I was suggested to go on an antidepressant and an anxiolytic. So I made up an excuse. I said there was a death in the family, which happened 3 years before that moment. And I was just going through the grieving process. So I didn't really need any medication because I didn't want to take any of those medications. I knew that there was something else that was brewing underneath, and I needed to tackle that. I went to a different GP. I was misdiagnosed with PCOS, and then many different GPs followed, and the misdiagnosed followed me as well. I so then decided to spend a little bit more money on a naturopath. She gave me so many supplements. She never listened to me. She never asked me, what are you doing day in and day out? She didn't even mention the fact that I was having at least 3 cups of coffee before having any substantial meal. And there I was spending approximately $2,000, possibly even more per month, between acupuncture, kinesiology, naturopathy, chakra healing, GPs, blood tests, and the results were always the same. And in the meantime, I was stuck in that healthy morning routine, and everyone looking at me praised me for that commitment to improving my body. Everyone around me asked me, how do you wake up every single day to go for a run or to go to the gym class? People were envious, they were jealous. They kept complimenting about my body and how it changed over the years. Anyway, a few months later, I really decided to improve my health, and I did all the things that I teach women to do. And it was a disaster in the beginning. I saw a psychologist for many months, and I couldn't make changes. I then joined a program, and with the person that was leading the program, I finally planted a seed in my brain that life could be different. It took me a long time. It took me a long time also to digest the comments that I started to receive by the people that were surrounding me. Why don't you run anymore in the morning? You're letting yourself go. There you are, you got married and now you've gained the weight. There was lots of that, which is why now that I've created my program, I tackle the 3 main points. One is diet, exercise, and lifestyle. The second one is mindset, psychological support. And the third one is community. Because at that time, I was going against the current. I was rowing against the current, and no one was there to support me, to tell me you're doing okay, and that's exactly what you're meant to be. I was navigating the unknown, and I didn't have any coping strategies, because my coping strategies were restricting food, restricting movement, which is something that I couldn't do. Not restricting movement, but implementing movement. And unfortunately, that's something that I couldn't do any longer. So I don't know if this story has resonated with you, if you have recognized a part of your identity in what I just shared. If you are in a place where you have been told that you have PCOS and it doesn't sit right in your heart, or maybe you have been stuck in an exercise routine that feels very draining and definitely not supportive towards your goal, or maybe you have been restricting food and you're just looking forward to go out and enjoy whatever is on the menu. I don't know where you are exactly, but if you're watching this, I truly believe that you need to hear this message. And if you have been sitting on the fence for a little while, and you would like to get that support in terms of getting the period back and support your fertility for sure, but also if you need some support in terms of letting go of the disorder behaviors around the food and training, make sure to apply to the period comeback protocol. I'm taking on 3 wonderful clients starting next month. So if that's something that you feel called to do, make sure to apply today just by clicking on the link below. The first step will be for the 2 of us to have a complimentary call, because I want to make sure that I can support you. And I want to have that confidence that we are the right fit. So once again, if that's your calling, if you're sick and tired of doing this on your own, this is a reminder that you don't have to. And you can absolutely reach out for support, and you can absolutely get better. Trust me when I say that life doesn't have to be this way. Life can be much more. There is a lot in front of you. You can get your vitality back. You can get your mojo back. You can get your period back. But most of all, you can get joy back. Sending you so much love. See you next time. Bye.